Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this wonderful, sultry Monday evening. My name is Dia Dynasty, and I am one half of La Maison de Rouge. My other half, Lucy Sweetkill, is taking a breather today. So I wanted to introduce you to, hello, Max. I wanted to introduce you to the legendary Midori that we have today by reading a little bit about her. Born an abomination, she travels worlds seeking other monsters. For we are many, searching for comfortable nightmares to nestle in, caressing the shapes of emotion and textures of memory. She feasts on repulsion, desire, and beauty. She will trick you into weaving layers of you into the fabric of the world. Midori is a multidisciplinary artist and a trailblazing educator, sexologist, and irritant to banality. Midori founded Rope Dojo and ForteFemme, Women's Dominance Intensive. She penned the first English instruction book on Shibari titled Seductive Art of Japanese Bondage. Whoops. In 2001, paving the way to popularity of rope. Dan Savage calls her the supernova of kink, I agree, while others affectionately call her Auntie Midori for her cool, tell it like it is, funny, reality-based teaching. And here, ladies and gentlemen and thems, is Midori.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great.
Hopefully everybody else can hear you.
Hopefully everyone out there. Hello, everyone out there.
So we've got 11 people in the room right now. And if anybody is not hearing Midori, please let us know. But thank you so much for making time to be on our show, Midori. And we were really looking forward to having you. So it's been a long-awaited thing to have the specialness of your presence.
Yay. Thanks for having me. And thanks for rescheduling. I really appreciate it. I get so busy.
Oh, of course. And that's totally understandable because, you're in demand. But I wanted to kind of just start the interview with just checking in. How are you today?
Today, I'm good. I'm in a good frazzled. On Wednesday, I'm going to be debuting a new performance. I've got commissioned art pieces. I've got classes. So today I'm feeling like I have all sorts of deadline at once, but in a good way. I can handle it. I got this.
Yeah, you got this. I've seen you do multiple things at one time, and you're quite the magician in that way. So let's start at the beginning of your story and maybe tell us the first time you had a kinky experience, whether it was sexual or non-sexual, without really even knowing if it was kinky or not.
Okay. So related, a little aside, I'll sometimes get asked, when did I first come out into kink? Mm-hmm. And I have a difficult time answering that question, similarly to myself puzzling over this question, because coming from Japan, I actually thought that I don't separate the adventurous sex as kink and not kink. Mm-hmm. I just really thought that, like is common in Japan, that people just didn't speak of their private lives and that they did all sorts of things. And I didn't quite have the coming out to kink. I was like, I mostly had the experience of, oh my God, people have to come out to kink? And this is separate?
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
So, yeah, so there's that. But if I were to think back to when I was a wee little one. Mm-hmm. And I think you probably heard my definition of BDSM, right?
Please share again.
Okay. My definition of BDSM is childhood joyous play with adult sexual privilege and cool toys.
Yes. I love it.
And like you just asked, there may be roots of our kinky adventures in the games we like to play as kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Japanese saying, the spirit of the 3-year-old till the age of 100.
Mm.
So I do remember picking random fruits off of ornamental trees. I was in early grade school and convincing my friends to eat it. And I was like, oh, it's completely edible. It's great. I had no idea. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that. And I also remember, oh my God, this is my adult mind is so, I was a naughty girl in that, I mean, like, really, this was not a nice thing for me to do. But my mother was a professor. And in Japan, being professors, close TA meant you also might have to babysit the child.
Oh, okay.
Right? There's that, like, there's this authority exchange there. And I figured out the power dynamic between mother and TA that was babysitting me. So I remember doing things like deciding that I'm like 4 or 5, deciding that I was going to teach the young man, the TA, table manners. So sitting in his lap and slapping his hand on, because I just learned table manners, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
teaching that. Or also writing, the babysitter TAs on all fours, and I'm like riding her back and calling her piggy and smacking her butt like a horse. And, like,
you really got that. Yeah, I mean that's definitely very similar to things that I think a lot of people have done in their childhood, and the definition of BDSM of childhood play with adult sexuality and toys is so accurate in this scene here.
Right. So I guess, if I look back, and of course, selective memory, right? And I find myself recalling those games when I know that I'm sure I played other ones. I also remember when I did get to play make-believe with my neighborhood kids. We would do essentially like sword fighting, Japanese sword fighting, period movies. It's kind of like the Japanese version of playing Western.
Right.
Playing cowboy. Yeah. So I would always try, and I had long hair, I had long braid, and I would convince them that I should play the warlord because I had the long hair and I could make the top knot.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And that was why, and that was like, I should be the warlord.
Yes. And so this is how you've always been. I love it. So in your culture, has there ever been any, I guess, like shame or resistance to that you felt from your culture as to who you truly were?
Well, that line, born an abomination, is not just poetic. I mean, I'm mixed. I am mixed white and Japanese. And though I am Japanese, born and raised, primary language, public school, it just so happens that my ethnic mix contains European.
Right. So you're culturally Japanese.
Yeah. Culturally, like, I consider myself a child of the Showa imperial era. Right? That's the way that eras in Japan are measured by the Gregorian calendar as well as the emperor era.
Right.
And so I consider myself an Edoko, child of Edo. And yet, because my heritage is mixed, I am ethnically looked down upon and prejudiced upon in every day of my existence in Japan. I was sorely aware of that. Now, for other mixed heritage children, oftentimes the strategy was either to pass or to live in shame. However, in my case, my family, especially my grandmother, from where my European side comes from, my white American side comes from, she was a suffragette and a blue stocking and an independent Hellcat, I'd say.
Yes.
Tough as nails, right? She, I think, expecting what would come of me in the future, considering the racism in Japan and the misogyny, imbued in me that you are of Japan, but you are not owned by Japan. And what she instilled in me was to have a global view,
Mm-hmm.
a 1,000-mile up view, to be able to see the cultural flaws as well as the joy of the Japanese culture. So she prepared me to be a global citizen
Mm-hmm.
and inoculated me against the toxicity of the racism.
Right. So wise.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, like really setting you up for for such a broader perspective of life,
Mm-hmm.
and to get you ready for the stuff that might come your way, but to also defend you in that way. That's a really, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also knowing that, and she was hoping, I think, that eventually I would end up in the United States.
Mhm.
There was no guarantee of it, but I think she was also aware that, those of us Asian heritage people are what, 5% of the population?
Mhm.
And as we know, with all the increasing violence against the Asian diaspora, I think she also anticipated that as well.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow, she had a lot of foresight. So so when did you actually start, I guess, your femdom, like your official femdom pursuits, or was that always in you?
You know, okay. So I ended up in San Francisco. I mean, I went to Berkeley, so I'm right across the bay, right? But I was busy study, or failing at studying, or whatever. I was busy doing school.
Pretending, doing school, yeah.
Pretending to study. Right. So in 91, I ended up in San Francisco. And for any of you who's interested in my early days in San Francisco, there's a TEDx talk, TEDx Soma. And if you look up Midori, you'll see that I talk about my early days. I experimented a lot. Oh my God, the early 90s in San Francisco was fantastic. And it wasn't as expensive as it is now. So I tried a lot of different things. And sexual experimentation was one of many things I tried out. I ended up falling in with a group of people who, well, let's see, the likes of Pat Califia, Carol Queen, Robert Lawrence, Annie Sprinkle, Joni Blank, etc., etc. I did not know at the time that these nice people that were pulling me under their wing and just being lovely were part of, well, they were culture makers. Now, at the same time, this is the days of the HIV pandemic, the last pandemic, and there were all these people that were dying around. And here's young Midori coming into her sexuality with death all around. I ended up volunteering with San Francisco Sex Information and doing grassroots sex ed, but not like the stiff, stodgy kind, the kind that's like do live safer sex demos at lesbian sex clubs, that kind. It was great. So along the way, I started experimenting. I guess I was often on the receiving end, but back in the day, I don't think, at least in my circle and in San Francisco, we weren't that obsessed with, are you a top, are you bottom, are you dominant, are you submissive?
Mm-hmm.
And there was this very radical streak. And I know that when I traveled to New York, things were different. It was a lot more codified.
Right.
Whereas this like sex radical, I was really in a sex radical subculture.
Mm-hmm.
And experimenting and not identifying was more common.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, and I received or bottomed plenty. And I think somewhere along the way, that little boss babe kitty, that kid that I was feeding you weird things,
Yeah.
started to rear its head.
Yeah.
So I tried a lot of things. I felt no need to identify,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of fell into that which felt comfortable. And yeah, so I am blessed for the time and place that I got to explore.
Yeah, it sounds like in that time things were just more wild and free.
Yeah,
And people weren't like all up on using, correct terminology or vocabulary, and just like having fun and
we
doing
were
that.
making it up as we were going.
Exactly. And so I'm curious if you attribute a lot of that bottoming experience to being such a skilled top.
Possibly.
Hmm?
Possibly. Well, what I do know is I like intense sensations. Like I know that when I go to massage therapist, there's this Russian bath down here, and before COVID, I went down for a massage, and there's this big guy that looks like a KGB bodyguard.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not that big. I'm 5'1",
Yeah. Okay.
And he was like, and I think I was making all sorts of grunty sounds. And afterwards, I get off the table, and Russian man says, "You very strong, very good." And I'm like, wow. He was kind of like that rock character in Guardians of Galaxy.
Yeah.
He was kind of like that. I was like, oh, big muscle Russian dude without a neck thing, so I'm strong.
Right. I know.
Yeah, I like intense sensations.
Mm-hmm.
And because, and I think there's something to I don't know, there's something to the X chromosome, there's something to our hormones, who knows, that we can take a lot of women folk can take a lot of sensations. I don't know. Maybe it's a bias. Who knows? Bias on my part, but
I think that that's mostly true, especially since we have to endure childbirth. Not that I would know personally, but
we're built for it.
We're built for it, so we probably have some nice chemicals to help us get through it.
Yeah, so there might be something to that. Anyhow, being able to understand the sensation processing, because for your dear viewers, processing intense sensation is not necessarily submitting. Those are very different things, right? And because I do have that knowledge in my body knowledge of what it's like to ride through intense sensations, one, I think I might be able to help a person through an experience that wants that, or give just that little extra push, or also do the, what do you mean you can't take it? I can take it. And I'm just a little tiny middle-aged Asian lady. I can take it. What's wrong with you?
Shame them.
I'm just a little middle-aged Asian lady. Why can't you take this? Whack! Oh my God. Yeah. And there's nothing quite like freaking out somebody.
Yeah.
Who's submitting and bottoming to me by self-paining myself, and just freaks them out.
What do you mean by self-paining yourself?
Well, let's see. I have a friend that I play with that she is afraid of a stun gun. Right? And hopefully she's not watching this. I never actually do it on her, right? But I'll like flash it in front of her.
Oh yeah.
Fear play. And then I'll like stand in front of her and stun gun my own clit.
Oh, you mean for real?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. Amazing. I'm not at that level of domination and self-painting yet, but wow, what was that like for her?
We were playing with fear. It was achieved.
Yes. That is wild. I never thought to do that. But
see, the thing is, it's a hard limit for her to receive it.
Sure.
She's able to see it, but that it's like watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
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 I've also like pierced my own lips in front of person.
Whoa.
That I'm hearing an echo.
Is it
Let's see.
your echo?
I don't. Yeah, it's my voice. Oh, it's fixed now. Great.
Yeah.
I have actually done things like pierce my own lips in front of a person who that was a hard limit. On the other hand, I have also gently shown piercing myself for somebody to help them reduce their anxiety.
About piercing.
Right.
Okay.
That they wanted to, but they were really quite anxious about it. And I just took, a nice bit of fatty flesh and just very shallow, just did that.
Mhm.
And then let them with gloved hands feel what it's like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I never thought to do that. I love it. That sounds amazing. And I feel like I feel like there is some I guess like therapeutic exposure when you're able to do it to yourself in front of somebody else who has a lot of anxiety about it. That can calm them, and it makes so much sense because it's like happening right in front of them, but it's not happening to them.
And their fear, and the important part in this conversation and the whole thing was around they wanted to try it, but they had this fear about it, and we just wanted to get past this, and they wanted to have me help them in terms of me topping and dominating. But I showed that, and I asked before doing that. I asked about what is it that you're afraid of, and even if it's not realistic, I want to hear all about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they were, and they knew it was irrational.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it was irrational, but they were worried that they would like suddenly kick their legs out or faint.
Mm-hmm.
And also an irrational, again, this is a very like scientifically minded person, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this is not a phobia because I don't deal with phobias. That is a different area. This is not a phobia.
Okay.
This is just intense concern, because phobia at a clinical level is, I think, outside of my responsibility, even as a play partner.
Okay.
But this is somebody with intense fear that they knew they could, but something was holding them back. Their imagination, right?
That's a really good differentiation. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas a phobia is, for me, if somebody asked me to help them overcome an actual clinical phobia, I don't want to go there because I am not that kind of mental health professional, and my play is not that. Anyhow, back to the person in question. They wanted to overcome it. They knew that. And they also had this like image, like when the needle comes out, that they would bleed to death. Right. And they needed to see it.
Yes.
Which is very different than, seeing like grotesque, flashy performance art. Is very different than reading about it. They needed to see a normal, low-key play piercing.
Yeah. And they know that it's irrational, already. So that's helpful because it's I guess it helps to have the knowing, but maybe like not so much the emotional impact of what might happen. And then when it actually does happen in front of them, then their emotions can kind of regulate because it's not going to be some crazy thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that tendency towards, I can be in play when given consent and all that. I can be hella sadistic and enjoy it. And I can also be hella bossy and imperious. But there's another side of me that, the examples I was talking about, another side of me that's more like the coach, right?
Yeah.
And that, I think, has translated well to like my ForteFemme. Because there are a lot of women out there who various societal messages, insecurities, don't allow themselves or found themselves in an environment where somebody would encourage them without having to be a stereotype.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about the conception of ForteFemme?
Sure. ForteFemme, I'd already been teaching for several years. And it started with my best friend, actually. She had her first kinky, very explicitly kinky date coming up with this new guy in her life, right? And he's experienced kinky, wants to bottom. She's kink adjacent, totally loves the idea, hangs out with a lot of kinky people, but never done it personally.
Okay.
So she calls me up and, oh my God, what do I do? And I said, come on over, sit down on the couch, and I'll help you get through your first date. There's that conversation. And then I started to realize that while there were all these classes, many of them didn't address the ways in which female identifying or assigned female at birth people end up with biased education and assumption and self-limitations that's applied from the outside and then internalized. In other words, they didn't get a chance to explore it or get validated. Like, okay. And so around 2004, the first iteration, I just took a bunch of my pre-existing classes. And if I were to, remembering back to my best friend on the couch, if I were to string together the basic skills to get people through their first scene, so I strung that together. That was my first women's dominance weekend. And then after doing that, I realized what was really needed. So I chucked the content of it, went into, with a friend's help, secluded myself into a hotel suite for like 4 days with my friend's help, brainstormed and worked on an outline.
Okay.
And changed the whole program. It's evolved since then. And now really what it is tools by which giving people the tools to be able to access their own desires and to be able to engage in tapping into their authentic power on her terms to co-create joy with the other.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's about authenticity and collaboration and truth to oneself first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just being something you think that the other person wants you to be. I think that is a very performative element of kind of the dominatrix archetype. And it is where I began, it was like in service to the house and their clients, which is when I first heard about you, when I was at the commercial dungeon in New York, that was all Asian. And of course they had your book. They had this wonderful Japanese bondage book. And then, like they kind of performed dominatrix. And they sold this kind of image of dominatrix, but we were not valued for our individuality or our authenticity. We were more like, we were considered exchangeable and nobody should like stand out too much. And that was such a weird, mind fuck, like as a baby dom, as my first experience. So it's really great. I wish I would have known. I mean, I don't know if it was something that was happening when it's 2008.
Well, my program started in 2004. So
yeah, so it was. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you are sharing your wisdom and knowledge and helping guide other femmes and is this something that, because I don't have a website for it. Is it
ForteFemme.com.
Okay, I'm just gonna put it in the comments.
ForteFemme.com. So ForteFemme's on hold right now with COVID, right?
Okay.
And I know that there are plenty of eager people waiting to sign up. I'm taking my time. I'm also, during COVID, I got an opportunity to focus a lot on my art career as well as my one-on-one coaching. So to get ForteFemme started again, and because ForteFemme is an international event,
I'm
paying it because we get a lot of people from Europe and Asia as well.
Right.
So I want to make sure that when it opens, it's a little more globally safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking at just California or New York. I'm not looking at just the US. So I'm looking at that. And I'm also being gentle to myself and my staff. There's like this secret ninja army of people who make ForteFemme possible. When you attend, I'm the one doing all the teaching, but there's this team that makes it happen.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
want to be, I'm being extra careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to be extra careful. With so many enterprises happening. And just to switch modes real quick, can we also just talk about your art, your art
Yeah.
projects and your artistry, and how you're being an artist is blended into everything that you do?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking. For my artwork, the easiest thing is if you go to planetmidori.com, there's a sign that says go here for the education and go here for the art. So go to the art side. I describe my art as social practice, mostly because that's an umbrella term that a lot of my work fits under. So I end up, oh, thank you for putting that in. Okay. So I do installation, I do audience involved artwork. Actually, this week I am keynote performance at Emerging Arts Professionals Conference. So I'm presenting there, and I just received a commission to put in a large sculpture of representing the 7 tectonic plates and reclaimed material in this really cool, socially responsible restaurant. So my artwork, well, sometimes people who only know me from my kink education side will somehow assume that my artwork is about sexuality or about bondage. It's not. It's a lot about memory. It's a lot, I have a lot of different topics I deal with, but in any case, I always love including turning the audience into collaborators. Earlier this year at Sacred Wounds online, I debuted a performance that used the annotation feature that's up here in Zoom.
Yeah, I remember being a part of that and actually contributing to. It was a digital piece of your face, and everybody kind of like added to it, and it was so fascinating to watch it happen because it was global, and to see like just the manifestation of each person's like kind of addition and collaborative effort to something that you set up, which was, you know, in likeness to your own face. I mean, I think that your art does have elements of sexuality and kink also, in some of the things that I've seen, like the installation work that you did in New York a couple
At the
years ago.
Museum of Sex.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
So the Museum of Sex commissioned me to create an installation, installation as an entry space to Araki, Nobuyoshi Araki's exhibition called The Incomplete Araki. And Araki, if you're not familiar with Nobuyoshi Araki's work, I hope that the viewers will look him up. Very controversial, very prolific artist, photographer from Japan. And many of his images include sex workers, red light district, the steamier, seedier side of town. There's sexual images, bondage images, fearless, absolutely fearless, right? And they gave me this hallway, and I proposed an entryway, a path, and symbolically creating the pathway to a old-fashioned retired Japanese gentleman's cottage would have this walkway. There would be an entry gate, and a walkway, and a little goldfish pond, and then there's a gate into the home. And I wanted to create this as a liminal, transitional space. And it was entirely rope woven. And I invited people on one of the artist talk day, because I didn't want to just stand there and this is my art.
Yeah.
So instead, I turned it into a workshop. I talked a little about the artwork, and then I had piles of rope. I'd already done all the work, but then I wanted whoever showed up to add. So I did like a 5-minute workshop of here's how you add rope, and here's what I'm looking for. Keep some tension. Here's scissors, here's rope. Go to town, and please add to my artwork.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so, I mean, I bet it was such a thrill to actually get to be hands-on for the people that maybe have only dreamed of, playing with rope, and to get that permission from you. Wow, I wish I did not miss that.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And then people would come back to the museum with their friends and go, "Oh, that's a bit of knot that I added."
Yeah.
And I also told people that they could create the ropes into secret symbols, because I created little secret symbols. Part of it was a symbolic fish pond.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created like little creatures like they have in Totoro, like the little monster.
Yeah.
I created secret little creatures all over with rope.
I love it.
And so I taught people how to do that. Like imagine if, say a muralist or like Picasso or Banksy or somebody, or Bloom, like the muralist Bloom was doing something and she said, here's a bunch of paint, add to the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. What an honor, I think some people would probably be like so starstruck they may not know what to do, but to have a directive, I think is super, super helpful. And I love that. It's like, I hate to gender things sometimes, but it's not about gender. It's more about like the masculine and feminine energies that everybody has.
The yin and yang.
Yes, the yin and the yang. And I feel like with feminine energies, it's really about cooperation and collaboration rather than being the hierarchy of like, I'm the artist, these are my things, don't even touch it, Yeah.
There is also a little bit of a trickster too. Instead of going, here, it's edible, eat it. Like, here, it's art, make it.
Yes.
You can do it too.
Yeah.
And oh my God, you should have seen. I've done several like collaborative type of exhibitions. Once I made a couch out of blow-up dolls.
Oh yeah,
and it's called a love seat, and it was at an exhibition at the Seattle Erotic Art Festival. What year was it? I have it in my art site, and there's also a little video where I call it the love seat effect. So you'll be able to find it. But it was meant for people to sit on it. But oh my God, I had to really, really, really coach the docents, because they were like, don't touch. I'm like, no. Invite them to touch, invite them to sit. And then the blow-up dolls would break because I'm using authentic, cheap blow-up dolls, right? So they would break.
Then they're not precious.
No. But the docents were like, they were genuinely concerned for my artwork. And they were like, they're breaking. I'm like, no, it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process of it. And so over a 5-day exhibition, and 5,000 people.
Whoa.
The couch became a stool, became a raft, became a carpet.
It's the evolution of an actual blow-up doll.
Yeah. So if anyone came early on, they got to sit on that. And I had it placed in such a way that you could put your beverage in one of their mouths and rest your hand on a boob. And it's funny, but when it was also created to facilitate conversation around the commodification of the body.
Yeah.
And it was my response I was jurying an erotic art show, a separate one. I was jurying an erotic art show, and I saw rope bondage imagery where the rope was nice, the technical photography was nice, but the way in which the women were, as you were saying, interchangeable and commodified, and passionless
Mm-hmm.
just pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, okay, so years ago when the NEA was being busted by conservatives or bitched upon by the conservatives, people used to say, well, why can't you make nice art that matches the sofa? So what I did was I made a sofa that matched the boring art.
Oh yeah, you're such a deviant and very much a trickster.
Uh-huh.
So what did that couch even look like?
Oh gosh. Let's see. I don't know if somebody can go over to planetmidori.com, and it's under a body of work called Plastics.
Okay.
And you might be able to see it. It really is like all these cheap like the cheapest ones, right? Because I was self-funding this, because it's not like a residency or I could get funds on this. I self-funded it, which meant I hit up some of my sex toy vendors like the Pleasure Chest, and like, you know, can you help get it for me at wholesale and things like that. Bless them, they totally helped me out.
I see the chair.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, these are these. They're all bound together with rope, and I see the cup holder there, and I think it's so funny where they put the anus.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the commodification of women's bodies is definitely a larger conversation these days than it was, I think, in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that also having artwork that reflects kind of like actual, you know, sex toys that are cheap and disposable really reflects the way that a lot of the bodies are seen still.
Yes. There were several, and I left the exposition at a very minimal level because it's an interactive piece. And once people sit on it and start talking, and it's seated for two, and when people start talking, conversations and topics will bloom. Maybe it'll go in another direction around ecology. I mean, this is precious resources, okay, petrochemicals created off, and you know, let's face it, these cheap ass sex toys are made in environments where the environmental concerns are not paid attention to.
Right.
They're using underpaid labor under unsafe conditions to create tchotchke and fundamentally meaningless objects.
Right.
There's so many layers, and then like put on a ship using like in the carbon footprint and brought across the ocean. There's so many things wrong with that.
Yes. Yeah, one of my my partner actually calls it born trash, and I think that that's a really acute statement about a lot of this stuff. But I think also, you know, it's very in contrast with how humans in the sex trade and in the sex industry should be treated. And there's this very stark, you know, the stark contrast of kind of like these cheap things that are born trash, and then humans which are not born trash but then treated like and degraded as this way in a lot of the sex industry, and how there should be a huge difference in recognition in how we treat people versus objects, but instead it's sometimes the opposite way around. People value objects more than they value humans.
Yes, and especially those that are deemed powerless or of less power end up being utilized as commodity and resource. Let me put I don't know if I can put in a comment or not.
What would you like for?
I was just going to put in If you go to my art site under gallery and work and click on plastics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will make that link right here happen because that's where I'm at right now. And here it is.
Great.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. So now you should see the shells with the vulvas in it.
Yep, those are beautiful.
And the vulvas are, I took masturbation toys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely looks like a masturbation toy that I've had before.
Yep. And I use those to create a new object.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go further down, I see I need to, and click on read more. And I need to fix that video link. All right. There's something down at the bottom called the comfort station. It looks like breasts bound with a music player on it.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of those heavy rubber boob masturbation device.
Yeah.
I cut the breasts out and put it on a headset, and it's called Comfort Station, and it plays the sound of money with the tablet.
Oh, that is brilliant. Oh my goodness. I see that. Oh man, I would love to put those on my head.
So that is the ultimate in capitalistic comfort.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I see that you're playing too. Like when you make these things, these art objects, and you're playing with a lot of ideas that are kind of taken for granted, like capitalism, and also sex, and kind of like twisting them around to be a little more cheeky, but also very thought-provoking. And I think that that's the essence of art. I love that you're doing these things, but they're really not necessarily about sexuality, even though there are elements and kind of like visualizations of something like sexy happening.
Right. And like the love scene is, frankly, it's because I'm pissed off. I have a performance called Kimono 2, What We Wear, which I've also played. And that is because I'm pissed off. And that my unofficial name to that performance, my in-house name for that is the Angry Asian Lady performance.
Something everybody should behold in their lifetime.
Yeah, it is about, and in the end, I'm asking the viewers. There are buckets of paint and like house painting brushes, and the guests have an option to. By this time, I painted myself. See the video when you can.
Okay.
But this is to the viewers. Right?
I've actually seen are you painting yourself white?
The audience is painting me. At first, I'm painting my face in various standards of beauty that's grotesque. And then I bind myself, I step into the audience, and the audience is offered buckets of paint. So I put the audience into a decision conundrum. If you follow the artist's request, you are physically whitewashing her. If you do not if you choose not to physically whitewash her, you are now choosing to not take the artist's request.
Right.
So which do you do?
Yeah.
And then after I am whitewashed, and then I end up tipping over and rolled up in an oriental rug and taken away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. I wonder if people really got that as it was happening.
Some people did. Some people did not. I do know for a fact that one person who totally understood what was happening, a year later was talking to another friend who was there. The friend was like, "Oh, that was so cool. We got the paint Midori." And the first person said, you do realize what happened. She's like, no, thought it was really cool. It's like, she had us whitewash her.
Mm-hmm.
That was about racism. And then the second person was like, oh.
Mind
So
blown.
a year later,
Mm-hmm.
an awakening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, art lives forever, you know.
Yeah. Somebody asked.
Yes. So David asked, and I believe this is what you're talking about, because on the most recent Sacred Wounds, we played this video.
Yes.
Where many people painted Midori and carried her out of the building. Profound anti-violence message. I loved it. So that is actually just what she described, David.
And that performance was actually created in 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's been online for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's been significant lately.
Yeah.
It was in response to yet another request of, oh, can you do a Japanese bondage performance? And their internal expectation was sexy lady, and then skinny white lady tied up, skinny white lady up, skinny white lady down, ta-da.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And assumptions, all sorts of orientalized assumptions around the sacredness or whatever. And I'm like, and then I asked the producers, okay, I will do a Japanese bondage performance, but will you trust me
Mm-hmm.
and let me create a custom performance?
Mm-hmm.
Will you trust me? I said, oh, sure. And how many suspension points? I'm like, don't need any. I need 4 white guys, specifically 4 white males, dressed as stagehands. Oh, do you need somebody to tie up? Oh, no. Just trust me.
Says the trickster.
Yeah. And I created this performance as a critique to the expectations. And I see another question.
Yep. See, Max Media wants to ask, was there anything from pop culture that influenced the art you do?
Yes, everything.
Everything. I feel like your art is extremely contextual to everything that's happening around us, especially in regard to being an Asian woman.
Yeah, it is. And oftentimes, I source my inspiration from that which pisses me off.
Yes.
It's a really effective motivator.
Oh, yeah. I bet. Yeah.
And again, with this, like, here, eat this. I promise.
It's edible.
It's edible. It'll be fun.
Yeah, put it in your mouth.
Yeah. See, and another thing that pisses me off is that art is seen as like this velvet rope thing. Don't touch. It's created by individual geniuses, and we're supposed to be here and watch it, and we are but viewers. I've heard so many people say, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Here's a box of crayons. Will you do a thing with me?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, see, you're an artist. You're creative.
Yeah.
And they're like, I am? I'm like, yeah. Have you seen Picasso?
I mean, I think that creativity is everybody's birthright. You know, we are all born of creation, and we are creative beings. And so much of what we experience in life kind of conditions us out of it, because they want to commodify us, or they want us to be producers of products.
Or if you can't make good art, or if you're not famous, or if you Van Gogh, sold 2 paintings?
Mm-hmm.
Two. I think one was at least to his brother.
Yeah, and he
his brother
died very poor.
Yeah, and he burned with the passion of creativity, right? So we put, like, if you have to sell it. Oh, and speaking of which, out of that Sacred Wounds performance where everybody drew on my face.
Yes.
I took a portion of that and created an NFT, my first little NFT art, and it's going up on auction. I was accepted at the Every Woman Biennial and on June 24th. I think it's June 24th or June 26th. Let me look it up. There is an in-person, oh, it's June 24th, Thursday, 6 p.m. at Washington Square Park. There's an outside reception with a celebratory flash mob.
Is this in New York?
In New York. Right, and right at the fountain.
Celebratory flash mob. I'm just writing this into the comments as well for anybody that might be in New York City at that time to show up. Are you going to be there? Are you going to
I am sadly not going to be there. I will be there by whoever is willing to show me the video of it.
Right.
And let's see, the URL for that is, well, let's see, 2021.everywomanbiennial.com.
2021.everywomanby.com. All right.
Yes. So, and there's going to be like amazing NFTs in a physical, there's a physical gallery there that's going to put up a bunch of digital screens and projections of NFTs by the accepted artists who, they're all women and non-binary people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's all kinds of newness coming together. Cool. So this is a recent project that you've basically finished. Do you have any other projects that you're very excited about that are maybe in progress?
Oh yes. Let's see. I am going to be asking for, and from all distance, that sculpture of the 7 tectonic plates. It's going to be a 30-foot long sculpture. Wow. But I'm going to need everyone's help in making flowers out of plastic bottles, soda bottles. And I'm going to, I'll have resources available. I'm also looking for people to help me make plastic string, and I'll show you how. So I'm looking at volunteers that will be willing to put their craft and creativity skills into my sculpture.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun.
And I'll put an announcement in my Instagram and stuff, and my Patreon.
Yes. Let's talk about your Patreon real quick too.
Yes. So Patreon, I've had it for almost 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
And initially it was just about the art, but once pandemic hit, I was like, oh, I can use this as a place for sharing and teaching art as well as my classes. So I've been taking videos from classes, putting it on there. I also do live office hours every other week. Yeah.
I love that term, office hours. There's just something that's so like, it evokes like metal filing cabinets and doors with frosted glass and, you know, name, you know, Auntie Midori on there.
Come to the Auntie's office hours. Yeah, so every other week, and it's for any and all subscribers. And subscription or membership starts at $2 a month. For people who want to see the video stuff, it's $5 a month. I figured it's the equivalent of a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And it makes me accessible. People show up, and what I do, it is recorded, but what I do is in the first few minutes, we go over questions we want to talk about. And if there's anything that people want to talk privately and not recorded, we do that without recording. And then I'll take the topics that can, and then make it into a video where it's just my face. Yeah. So it's just my face. And then that's available as a resource. This last time we talked about conflict, when conflict arises in DS relationships, We also talked about distinction between DS scenes and DS relationships, since during the pandemic, DS seems to have gotten very popular, but a lot of people are getting quite confused, and not surprisingly so, between DS scenes versus DS relational structures. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
somebody commented on my furry animals back there.
Yes. We get a hamster.
This is a thought squirrel. These are my teaching props. This
That's
is thought squirrels. These are the things that inhabit our brain and all the to-dos and that which keeps us from being present in play. And I have Chip and Dale that help me out.
I love that the slogger works so well.
Chip and Dale. And then we have a happy otter.
Aww.
Yes.
It's got a starfish.
Yeah. And when I teach therapists, I actually work with therapists to get the helping professionals to be kink competent and kink fluent.
Yes.
And I even use the stuffed animals in talking to them, because then they relax.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are so cute. I love them.
Yeah. Well, so back to the Patreon. I hope you all will join that, because there's a lot. Oh, and dig back into the archives. I have a lot of material, a lot of videos. It's a little clunky to go through, but you can put in a little keyword. Again, going through the archives, it's a little clunky, but I have like 5 years of material in there.
That's a lot of material.
A lot of classes.
So Midori's Patreon is patreon.com/planetmidori. It's scrolling at the bottom along with all of her social media handles, as well as just put it in the chat right here so that you can look at it not moving. And so I just think that you are so multifaceted and multidimensional, and there's so much going on with you, and you're not fixated on like the whole, like sexy woman dominatrix vibe. And there's, you really do embody the play. Can you give our audience just a tiny bit of advice, and then we'll let them ask questions about how to bring back that like childlike play mindset?
Okay. Well, first of all, don't take BDSM so seriously, because when we take it seriously, the thing that I'm noticing lately is we take the trivial things. We take the things that don't really matter and think it matters. And the things that matter, we think it doesn't matter. Like laughing during the scene. Great.
Yeah.
And it's, I've heard people getting hushed for laughing.
Oh no, I love laughing. I would encourage people to try to make me laugh even more,
And you do not serve the technique serves the scene.
Right.
And I'll see this lately a lot, especially with rope bondage. Oh, it's on this side. Rope bondage. Where people get so hung up, thank you, I must do the ties right, and I can't play with another person until I know all these ties. Bullshit. You know what? Kids didn't worry about that. And just, don't harm each other, don't kill each other, don't bore each other, because boring also. And if a person is so focused on getting the tie perfectly, you know what the partner's doing?
Yeah. Oh, this is taking so long.
Yeah. So don't worry about the technical perfection. And whether you are topping or bottoming, look, especially if you're bottoming, all right, out there, you are an expert at yourself. You have been on this planet long enough to have a bullshit meter. Trust your gut. You may be new to kink. You're not new to being you.
Yes, that is such great advice. And I would say that that's really great advice for everything, even outside of kink.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. so we can allow our audience, our patient, wonderful audience members to ask questions. I know that usually Bobcat has some really great ones. And yes, Midori has been a dominatrix to some degree, right? You used to do this as a dominatrix.
Years ago and just a little bit.
Yeah.
We're talking 30 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I was also a soldier. I was also a barista. I also worked in an office. I also, yeah. It's funny. People don't ask me about when I worked as a copyright and product describer for a sex toy company.
Oh, that's where you get such wonderful vocabulary and descriptions from.
Yeah, because I had to figure out, it was one of those like fuckerware party companies, right? And totally pyramid scheme, right? But I worked in the headquarters office, and I had to come up with, and I had to sneak the sex positive in there, right? Because it was like they were selling like toxic material toys and all that, but I had to sneak in the sex positive into the messaging and the sales pitch, because I was writing potential sales pitch to the sales people in the field. Yeah.
Well, good. Like we are, the world is lucky to have you, honestly. Not trying to please anybody but yourself, your trickster self, but, for the betterment of the world, of course. So Max Media asks, what was the funniest thing you've ever done?
I'm assuming in the scope of kink or just in general?
I think that's up to you.
Yeah. Funniest thing. Funniest thing. Let's see. Well,
Max wants to clarify that both you can, yeah.
Funniest thing. I don't know if it's funniest thing. Okay, because I
knew you were going to do this.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
A funny thing that comes to mind. And this is a bit of me being an asshole, really. So when I go back to Japan and on the trains, nobody makes eye contact. Everybody has their devices and they're like this. So I'm sitting there with my earbuds in and I'm bopping to whatever song and I make eye contact and smile.
And so rebellious.
Yeah, and how it is in, and I think also in other parts of Asia as well, that eye contact and that, see, I was totally bringing the New York subway experience to a Japanese subway. Yeah. And it just freaks people out.
I bet, because what do they do? Like, are they so confused?
Yeah, and then as I'm doing that, as I make eye contact, then I'll like make eye contact with a Japanese person who smiles back and bops back, and I'm like, you studied overseas. And so I can tell the internationals and the globals.
Interesting.
Right? And then the island mentality people, they get nervous. So, yeah. And obviously, I'm this middle-aged woman of indeterminate ancestry, and I'm bopping and smiling, and not threatening, and yet disconcerting. So that is definitely an asshole thing I do.
And so, like, not asshole thing, though. It's only, like, culturally inappropriate.
Yeah. Another fun thing I do, especially lately, is when I get those, like, phishing calls. Right? And like, this is the IRS, your car insurance is expiring. I try to keep them online as much as possible. Right? And yeah.
So what do you say to them? Like,
let's see. So I'll, press to talk to a real person. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Okay. So what do you need to know about my car? And I don't have a car. What do you need to, so I just like pull up a model, right? And then I had, what did I have? It was around Halloween, so that one. and I had a jack-o'-lantern cutting kit still in the package, and they wanted my social security number, so I read the first digits off of the product description.
Yeah.
Right. And then they asked my name, and I said Jacqueline. And then what's your last name? Pumpkin. And then I'm like, don't laugh. My mom was a hippie. Don't laugh. It hurts my feelings. I want to solve the situation.
Okay, this is obviously how you entertain yourself on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep them online, right? Also, when I get inappropriate emails on FetLife, okay, I will first, if it's just like kind of borderline, I will answer it earnestly, because maybe it's just somebody that doesn't know how to phrase it.
Yeah.
But there are the ones that I know for sure. And I will answer it completely earnestly, overly earnest, uber earnest. And they're cut and paste bullshit, or in some way or another being rude to me. And I dish it right back.
Yeah.
But in a way that they don't know. And I have just maybe posted those on my Patreon.
Yeah. Okay. Like for fun, you know?
Yeah. For members only.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is how I have fun.
And I've actually provided scripts to people for how to answer them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really helpful, because I think a lot of people just are, you know, aghast with being offended and don't even know what to say. So it's helpful to have something witty, you know, as a comeback. David would like to know, first of all, he wants you to know that first ever sex video he ever bought was when Midori did foot fetish with Nina Hartley. And he wants to ask, how old were you when you started videos?
You know, I've only done like a few out of education focus. So I must have been in mid-30s maybe. But y'all, that's not my focus at all.
Right.
So it was like, Nina was a friend, so did something for fun. It's like not a career field, just to be clear.
Yeah, I didn't know that you did this, and it sounds like, you know, like a maybe one-off or, you know, two-off. Yeah.
Totally.
So not really Midori's focus. The Villanelle would like to say thank you both. Midori, thanks for sharing your wisdom. You're always an inspiration. If we have any more questions, we'll take one more, and then
make it good, people.
Yeah, make it good, make it relevant. And while we are waiting for our last question, I'm just going to go ahead and plug our La Maison de Rouge Patreon, which is patreon.com/La Maison de Rouge. And this supports Lucy and I in continuing our public broadcasting in education and sexuality, because we do this out of our own time and our own passion and our own, you know, love for BDSM and educating and helping people get it right, but still have fun. So if
Patreon's been great.
Yeah, it really has. It's very it's a very versatile platform too. So both Midori and we have a Patreon. Consider supporting us and
join up. Yeah.
Right.
I've seriously, for this beautiful woman here, if you are devoted to her partner, put your money where your intentions are, for God's sake. Right? Yeah. It's one thing to say that, oh, I worship you. Really?
What does that even look like?
Right?
Yeah.
So value the work, value the work, value the intention, the labor that goes into this. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is people like us, we have to dig into our psyche.
Mm-hmm.
And then we open ourselves up to be vulnerable while walking the line of being able to set healthy boundaries and choosing to be open and transparent in order for a greater good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This can take it takes an emotional chutzpah.
Yeah. It's constant work.
Yeah.
Because we're also trying to set good examples of, positive, healthy engagements with kink and sexuality. And so it's like we have to, of course, demonstrate what that looks like too.
And when the cultural tide turns against sex positivity and personal expression, who's the first to go? Are the people that are out and public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
we put ourselves really out there.
mm-hmm.
So support us. Last question of the evening. Max Media would like to know, what is something you really want to do but haven't been able to?
Well, think of quite a lot. I haven't been able to put together that ForteFemme graduates retreat in somewhere tropical and beautiful. That shall happen someday.
Yeah.
For the ForteFemmes and their partners. Right?
I want to be a fly on the wall for that.
Good. That'll be so good. Yeah. I haven't nearly scuba dived in enough places. Yeah.
You're a scuba diver. Lucy is too.
I am.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah. And I haven't been able to convince any major retailers of packaging Midori's scarf harness, which is I have a way of making a dildo harness using two beautiful scarves.
Ooh.
And I created a prototype for unnamed major manufacturer, and they didn't get their act together. So one day.
Yeah. I would like to learn that because I love scarves. I love using silk scarves.
Oh my God. Long scarves.
Okay.
And your favorite flared base dildo or the two-ended kind.
Oh,
right?
Really? Okay.
It'll keep a dildo in.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I invented this. It took it's so simple. It looks weird that I should have spent years developing it, but I kept having to simplify, adjust. It's brilliant. And I think if you look for scarf harness under Le Wand, I wanted to get it in, have a video to prove that this is my thing.
Yeah.
So the video's out there, and I also have it in The Ultimate Guide to Kink by Tristan Taormino. I'm looking up because it's up on my bookshelf. Yeah. But it also works for keeping a Le Wand vibe on target, on the clit or the cock without hairs.
Amazing. I'm gonna try to find the video that you're talking about, even though I haven't found it yet. And that sounds like really like a beautiful, sensual treat to just wear.
And it fits snugly.
Yeah.
And you just adjust the length of the fabric, and it'll fit on anyone. And no buckles stabbing, Velcro scratching, edges of plastic rubbing.
Yes.
Or, when it's right up against your bladder instead of somewhere better.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one. Okay, I hope to find that one, and I hope that that Le Wand or whoever gets it together to be able to help promote that.
Well, Le Wand did a great job by creating the video for me. They don't do other toy manufacturing. But
I see.
Yeah. They're fantastic people.
Okay. Well, I don't think I've really heard of this brand, so I'm definitely going to look it up. Thank you.
It's great, and it's owned by this amazing woman who lives down in Florida. She's fantastic, and she also the same company does the cowgirl, the sit on top.
And
it's Bluetooth operatable.
Okay.
It's good. I have one. It's got a low rumble.
The
high pitch. It's more. It's not like. It's
yeah. Those are the ones that that shake the whole thing.
yeah. And I love that it's Bluetooth and internet enabled, so you can be in different part of the world.
Yeah, that's fun. That is really fun. Le Wand. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and
Le Wand and cowgirl.
Put Le Wand into
good butt toys too.
Very important, because there are some bad butt toys out there. I know from personal experience.
Yeah, the butt toys that they make, I think, is the B vibe, like butt vibe, B vibe.
Let's see. All products. Oh, they have a unicorn collection. Ooh. Oh my. Okay, I'm gonna have to come back to that. Thank you.
It's a woman-owned company.
Super important these days. Always support small businesses and women-owned companies and Black-owned companies. So Midori, you are such a fantastic delight and a legend at what you do. Thank you so much for your presence and your candidness and your humor and all that you contribute to this wonderful world.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for having me on. The viewers, thank you.
Yes, viewers, thank you for being so lovely, asking such thoughtful questions, and being so polite. All right, we will be signing off until next week. Thanks again, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.